Good evening. I am sorry to break up the party. The bar is still open, so feel free to have a seat and you can always return. We do have a dessert reception this evening as well, so we can continue networking. I'm Suzanne Wilson Heckenberg, the president of INSA, and I'm delighted to welcome you all this evening to the 2024 Charlie Allen Achievement Awards. That felt really good to say. I'm just going to say it again, okay? Charlie Allen Achievement Awards. Last summer, we had the pleasure of celebrating Charlie for his 65 years of dedicated service to our nation. And we renamed these awards to honor his profound impact on the national security workforce. We are delighted that Charlie could be here with us tonight to celebrate our 7 outstanding recipients. Before we begin, though, I want to acknowledge a few folks who've made this evening possible. Our Intelligence Champions Council. Throughout the year, the Council does terrific work supporting careers in intelligence and national security, including significant behind-the-scenes work in order to create the Achievement Awards. Special thanks to our council chairs, Cameron Ward Hunt. I don't think Cameron is with us tonight, but Colleen Ecker is. Colleen, can you raise your hand wherever you are? Thank you. And thank you for your support of INSA. At your seats this evening, you'll find a copy of the book, Venture Meets Mission, Aligning People, Purpose, and Profit to Innovate and Transform Society, courtesy of our literary sponsor, Noble Reach Foundation. This captivating book, which I do have at my bedside table, shares stories of successful entrepreneurs who combine mission and venture to solve critical societal problems. This is a perfect accompaniment to this evening, celebrating mission-driven professionals already making outsized impact on our national security. Now, it is my pleasure to turn the program over to our chairwoman, Tish Long. Tish, over to you.
Thank you very much, Suzanne, and good evening to everyone. The print is no longer big enough, and it's about 24 font. So my real reading glasses are somewhere around the room. If anyone finds them, I do need them. In the meantime, someone just gave me a pair of cheaters. So, Herman, no pictures with my glasses down my nose. Okay. It truly is an honor to be with you all here this evening, and I will tell you, this is my favorite INSA event. The opportunity to recognize our mid-career, outstanding, amazing professionals. So, we are here to recognize those achievements of Julia, Jennifer, Amanda, Iris, Nate, Jason, and Faye. Big round of applause. You are going to hear all about them, but I will just tell you their professionalism, their drive, their commitment to excellence is truly commendable. And I just really say congratulations to all of you. I also would like to recognize the families and friends who support our honorees. It's demanding what they do, their jobs, their work, their travel, sometimes very long hours away from home. And they can't do it without the support of their family and friends. So a big thank you to all their supporters. Now, warm welcome to a whole bunch of other folks. Tonya, thank you so much for being here this evening. Tonya is our keynote speaker, and thanks for your steadfast support of our workforce. I know, because you and I have talked about this, that you and your husband spend a lot of time mentoring our up-and-coming folks. So it's really appropriate that you are our keynote speaker tonight. So thanks for being here. And then we are not going to clap for everyone as I go down the line. Save your applause now to the end. So each of our achievement awards are named after a recipient of INSA's William Oliver Baker Award, and that recognizes lifetime achievement in intelligence and national security. And this year we have one of our namesakes here, the Honorable Joan Dempsey. Joan's here with us tonight to present the award that is bestowed in her name. That is the Mentoring Award. Joan, we are so pleased you could be here. Thank you. We also have with us retired Rear Admiral Mike Studeman, who will present the William O. Studeman Military Award for his father, Admiral Bill Studeman, who could not be here. We also have Dan Drell, who will present the Science and Technology Award named after his father, Dr. Sidney Drell. So Mike, Dan, thank you both for being here. I know it means a lot to our recipients that they have a direct connection to their namesake awardees, so thank you. Chuck. Chuck Alsop is the former president of INSA, and Chuck will present the Homeland Security Award who is named after his dear friend and mentor, Senator John Warner. So Chuck, thanks for being here, and again, that direct connection. And I'm especially pleased to see the front row here. And, you know, some of you have folks who are being recognized, and a number of you don't. And that says a lot about who we are as a community. I mean, we have here with us tonight the Honorable Stacy Dixon, the Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence. We have the Honorable Christy Abizaid, who is the Director of the National Counterterrorism Center. We have Vice Admiral Trey Whitworth, the Director of NGA. We have Lieutenant General Leah Louderback. You change your title so much, it's not in the script. She's the head of all Air Force intelligence, ISR, and probably something else. And Paula Bate, Deputy Director, FBI. Suzanne White, Deputy Director, Defense Intelligence Agency. Great agency, so is NGA, of course. But thank you all for being here this evening. You could be out every night of the week. I know that, been there, done that. The fact that you have taken the time out of your busy schedules to be here says that you are very interested in the future of the community, and thanks for being here. I would also like to thank the sponsors of tonight's event, because we can't do events like this without our sponsors. CACI, Data Machines, Esri, Lockheed Martin, Noble Reach Foundation, the Penn State Applied Research Laboratory, and Peraton. It takes true leadership to walk the talk, and your presence here tonight emphasizes that we are a community, one that prioritizes the people and the workforce powering the mission. So again, just thank you all for being here. I really hope you enjoy the evening. As I said, it's one of my favorite events of the year. Now, if you could join me in welcoming Christina Mancinelli, Vice President, Space Security, Cyber and Analytics, Lockheed Security Space, Lockheed Martin Space, Lockheed Martin, to introduce our keynote speaker.
Good evening, and thank you, Tish, for the warm introduction, as well as the opportunity to spotlight tonight's esteemed keynote speaker, Ms. Tonya Wilkerson, the Deputy Director of the NGA. Ms. Wilkerson has over 3 decades of extreme mission experience with tremendous expertise in space. She previously held prominent positions as the Associate Deputy Director for the CIA for Science and Technology and Strategy and within the National Reconnaissance Office. And while her career accomplishments in strategy and leadership, in her technical depth and her operations experience alone are remarkable, as I thought about how to introduce Ms. Wilkerson here this evening, I quickly realized that just reading her bio, even the full bio, did not only provided a glimpse of what Ms. Wilkerson is really about. So I wanted to start with what I admire most about her as a leader. And so in order to prepare for this evening, I did have the opportunity to talk to Ms. Wilkerson. I'm sure as many of you have had the privilege of hearing her speak at various events in the past, but it was an incredible opportunity to speak with her directly. And I asked Ms. Wilkerson, what was one of her most proudest achievements in over her 30-year career within the IC? And then she said, while she's been blessed with many opportunities throughout her career and enjoyed all of them, the thing that she is most proud of her accomplishments is seeing the success in others, investing the time in them, helping them achieve their career goals, mentoring across the community, and really focusing on the next generation of STEM leaders. And these experiences have been the most impactful for her. Ms. Wilkerson is truly a selfless leader, and I'm personally very inspired by her ability to manage her family, her career, the work for the community, and her team. And so on behalf of Lockheed Martin and myself personally, I want to thank Ms. Wilkerson for her leadership and INSA for affording me the opportunity to introduce her here this evening. We greatly value our over 3-decade partnership with NGA and really are excited to continue our unwavering support in providing the best assured GEOINT services. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome Ms. Wilkerson.
Good evening, everyone. Christina, thank you so much for that kind introduction. And thank you to all for your generous help supporting this wonderful event tonight. I'm extremely grateful for INSA's invitation to speak to you all today. And to do it in front of some of the luminaries, this front row is impressive, of the defense and intelligence communities is both humbling and an honor for me. And to the evening's namesake, Charlie, thank you so much for being here. It's a testament to both INSA and our community that this annual award ceremony is going strong after 14 years. But this year is special because it's the first year that we are celebrating these awards as the Charlie Allen Achievement Awards. So it's an honor to have been asked to be this year's keynote. Thank you, Charlie, for all that you have done and continue to do for our nation. Your enduring legacy of commitment to the mission and impact on the community will forever be treasured through these awards and will be remembered by current and future generations of national security professionals. Now, Charlie has been imprinted on my career for quite some time, and we got a chance to chat about that a little bit earlier. And I'm looking forward to sharing a few stories this evening. I did warn him ahead of time. But I want to convey to all of you up front that he is a man who worked with junior professionals in his own unique manner that demonstrated not just his focus on excellence or how he could articulate complex issues, but also just how much he valued the tradecraft itself. His contributions to the community, which include mentorship, are just one of the ways that he has demonstrated his lasting value to many. So while this is the 14th time of our communities coming together and converging for this event, tonight we get to make some memories as we get to be in the room for the first ever iteration of the Charlie Allen Achievement Awards. And often, the recipients of these awards are being recognized in a forum like this publicly for the first time in their careers, which to me is a great sign of things to come for each and every one of tonight's honorees. Now, before I get a bit nostalgic about some of my own experiences from my journey in the IC, I want to talk a little bit about this year's recipients, because that's who's really the stars of the show this evening. I had a chance to talk with each of them during the reception earlier this evening, and I came away more than a little impressed. Each of them has excelled in their roles, but there's one additional trait that ties all of these award winners together besides their excellence. And I'll touch on that a bit in a moment. Now, can each of you please stand when I call your name? Faye Cuevas is this year's Joan Dempsey Mentorship Award recipient. Jason Payne is being honored with the Sidney Drell Science and Technology Award. Nathaniel Bundy will receive the Richard Kerr Government Award. Julia Buffington and Jennifer Finley are the Edwin Land Industry Award winners. Lieutenant Commander Iris Kaku is this year's William Studeman Military Award honoree, and she flew in from Hawaii just this morning. I'm impressed. And Amanda Nashed is the John Warner Homeland Security Awardee. Each of you are here tonight because you have brought great honor and excellence to your roles in support of our national security. Let's take a moment and give them another round of applause. Now, I often speak about the value of mentorship, both from the perspective of purposely making time to mentor those who will be following in your footsteps, as well as those who take the time to seek out a mentor who can help guide them through the challenges a pathway may provide. Each of tonight's honorees share excellence and mentoring as factors in why they were selected to receive their awards. So while you will hear quite a bit more about each of them later on, I would like to applaud them personally for selflessly giving their time to support others, build bridges, and share their knowledge within their communities. Okay, so a little more background on why I was looking forward to speaking here this evening. I've been part of the national security community, as was noted earlier, for more than 3 decades. I think I might have started in kindergarten, right? And it's been great fun. It really has. It's been a run with many interesting opportunities, and I could go on for hours and hours about it. But I do think that there's some value in sharing a little bit about my journey. And for some, this may be a little bit of a repeat, but I think it's important to give you a window into who I am. So from a very young age, I was interested in math and science. And in high school, I decided that a good way to combine those interests was to pursue engineering. And when I was in high school, and some of you in the room probably know this individual, my principal introduced me to a CIA officer. You might know the CIA officer. And he was looking to invite minority students with STEM-focused talent to participate in an undergraduate scholar program. And the program was designed to increase the number of minorities working in the intelligence community. This led me to spending my summers and school breaks working at the CIA while I was in college. Now that was interesting because what do you tell your friends in college about where you're working during the summer? There's not a whole lot that you can say, right? So I felt really proud about making an impact as a student in support of national security issues. And it also provided me with a mentor who could help guide me. And that was the important part. There was a person there that I knew I could count on. Along the way, I became involved in an organization called the National Society of Black Engineers, or NSBE. And that organization really focuses in on helping to develop a pipeline of STEM talent. Those that know me, and it was mentioned earlier, know that I still take every opportunity I can to engage in the development of the next generation of STEM talent. So I'm actually heading out to Atlanta in the month of March, so if anybody's there, you'll see me. And I'm going to support my local NSBE chapter that I mentor in my community. Instead of being the deputy director of NGA at that event, I'll just be Tonya, and I'll be really happy to just get a chance to just be Tonya there. But I might look a little frazzled because I'm taking 30 students, and they're ranging from second grade to high school seniors. So if you see me and I look a little frazzled, you'll know why, right? So tonight, as I address you, I'm not just a speaker or the NGA deputy director. or somebody that spent the last 3 decades working for the safety and security of our nation and loved ones. I'm not here just because I was invited. I'm here as a mentor. Because I was once a junior intelligence officer looking to find my way, and I remember how much it meant to me to have someone by my side who cared enough to guide me along the way. So now I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, and as I promised, I'm going to share my insights about the great Charlie Allen. I can remember preparing our briefers to brief him just like it was yesterday. I think everybody in this room knows that Charlie is an icon in the intelligence community. 40 years at the CIA, becoming a legend in collection management writ large. He was a part of so much of our history, from the Cuban Missile Crisis to today, and everything in between. Charlie Allen was one of the original plain speakers. His opinion was coming whether you liked it or not. He trusted his expertise, his sources, and his tradecraft. And he did such an impactful job that he got an entire award ceremony named after him. So that's how you know you've made it in this town. He later reinvented himself as a Department of Homeland Security official, serving as both Assistant Secretary for Information Analysis and Chief of Intelligence, and also as Undersecretary for Intelligence and Analysis. And today, he still serves on numerous boards. He remains active in writing white papers, essays, and op-ed pieces, and makes time to engage with our shared ecosystems here in the national security space. I can imagine that the original version of Charlie Allen never really thought of himself as a mentor at the time, but I assure you, you are. A few years back, and I noticed some familiar faces in the room, so some of you are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. A few years back, I had the opportunity to be responsible for command and control of a critical mission. And that mission really required that we keep a particularly tight ship, because there were a lot of people who relied on us to be perfect. But when things went bump, as they occasionally do not only in life, but also in work, it was Charlie who needed to be briefed. I knew that we were going to have to take a particularly deep dive into what the anomaly was and what the resolution was going to be. I knew that Charlie would want details, and we had no choice but to provide them. So the bottom line for us was to make sure that we had the overall impact of the anomaly covered, and we knew that we were going to be briefing a really tough customer, but we also understood what the expectations were. Hard questions were going to be incoming, and we had to have the answer. So we had to prepare. And to this day, those briefings with Charlie have impacted me to my very core. You can just ask some of my team how much I still prepare for everything on my calendar, even this very speech. We started talking about it back in November. But when Charlie was coming by the site, or if we were going to brief him, we knew that there was going to be an opportunity, and we looked forward to that opportunity each time. It was an opportunity for junior members of our team to be exposed to one of the most respected experts in the field. And this would give them an opportunity to shine and rise to the top of a difficult situation. Those opportunities were invaluable for my team to learn, grow, and become better for themselves and better for our mission. And in parallel, Charlie deeply understood the vast power of investing in others. Simply by being himself, he was mentoring. So I ask all of you tonight, as you enjoy this evening, an evening in which 7 of our colleagues from across government and industry will remember for the rest of your lives, will you mentor someone tomorrow, or next week, or next month? I hope you say yes. Now, taking all of that into account, as I was preparing for tonight, I wanted to tap into some of my colleagues who also had a good feel for what Charlie meant to them. and how it mattered for so many across industry to be able to learn from him. In particular, I had the opportunity to connect with a friend, CJ, who was then the chief of engineering at the time, and I asked him the question, what does Charlie mean to you? Now, CJ's been retired for a while, and it didn't take him but a couple of minutes to come up with a great Charlie story. I'll share it with you. One of the things that he noted that he remembered in particular was having to provide operational status to Charlie. And before he was in this setting where he was going to give his briefing, and the person going before him was sitting there and walking through the briefing. And CJ noticed that before it was his turn, that Charlie was getting a sense from the first briefer that maybe he wasn't getting the straight answer to all of his questions. So CJ, observing this interaction very quickly, knew that he had to make sure that he was going to be prepared when it was his turn. So before going to his very first slide, he told Charlie, there's probably going to be some things that I say that you're not going to like. But what I'm always going to do is I'm going to tell you the truth. And then he proceeded into briefing the anomaly. Now, for those of you that might not be familiar with some of that, I'll share with you, and I chatted with Charlie just a little bit earlier and noted that I was going to share the story. He shared with me he still remembers the anomaly numbers, right? Impressive, right? Impressive. The other thing that CJ noted, though, in particular, and really reflected on, was that Charlie is a man of integrity, and that Charlie has an expectation that others have integrity as well. And those are really meaningful words that define the foundation of what Charlie Allen truly means to this community. And tonight, it has been my great honor to be able to share those insights in just a story, and to give you a little bit of an inside look into how and why this man, Charlie, has impacted so many along the way through his significant accomplishments. Thank you, Charlie. And so for all of our award winners tonight, I have a quick message for you. Continue to be great leaders. Give back where you can. And know that your impact will be remembered by those you led and the lives you've touched for years to come. And I thank you so much for the contributions that you've made. Now we're in for a really special treat because our next speaker is none other than the great Charlie Allen himself. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Tonya. I'll just speak from here, if that's okay. I've just returned from 22 days in a hospital from COVID-19. It escaped my family for 3.5 years, but it caught up with us at the recent New Year's. I want to thank Tonya for her kind comments. They're very true. And you're talking about DJ Mammon and how I used to worry his wife, I think, by calling him at odd hours and so forth, on all these anomalies that did occur and still occur, I'm sure. I think the one thing, the mentorship you talked about, Tonya, is so vital. We're entering in a whole new world, a world where we're at war in Ukraine, we're at war with Hamas. It is a very different environment. And we have China, which is contesting us over Taiwan, South China Sea. We're in an area where we've got to have a more integrated approach to our allies. We got to have greater unity if we're going to be successful. I remember how we used NATO to conduct our operations in Iraq and in Afghanistan and other places, and we forget just how crucial NATO and our NATO allies really are to us. And then one thing that I really think is very important is that we have a new generation. We have some examples tonight, and I think it's incumbent for all of us to think of the leaders that we'll see tonight and the innovations that they've brought. I think leadership of tomorrow is going to be different. It's going to be very challenging. But I think some of the old truisms on leadership really the same. One is, of course, you have to be you have to show the integrity that Tonya was talking about. You have to have competence. You have to understand your subject matter better than anybody else. You've got to have courage. I was just talking to Admiral Studeman, Michael, who was such a great help to me at DHS, about the big calls we made, and it took courage to make those calls. We made some things we did the impossible again and again, the intelligence community as a whole. And for that, I think we have to have a new set of leaders who not only know the traditional tradecraft that Tonya mentioned, but also understands technology and is technical savvy in ways that we were not. But I want to thank Tish, I want to thank Suzanne and others for the great honor of being known as that these are Charlie Allen's Achievement Awards. I'm extremely grateful. Words cannot convey the depth of feeling in my soul. Now, the one thing that I will say is that I was, one characteristic which Tonya talked about was intensity, although she didn't use that word, but I think that represented my approach to U.S. intelligence and to the joy we had in helping keep this country safe. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tish. Thank you, Suzanne.
Oops, there you go.
Well, Charlie, intense, it is certainly apropos. There are some other words that are as well. Many of us worked with Charlie, and I'll just leave it at that. But Charlie, very, very appropriate words, and we are just honored to be able to recognize you with this award ceremony being named for you. So, and we're delighted that you are here with us this evening, of course. Tonya, wonderful. I mean, your remarks, I mean, hearing a little bit about your journey, and as I said in my opening remarks, I know how much mentoring the next generation means to you. I'm looking forward to some pictures from Atlanta. I cannot imagine second grade through seniors. You go, girl. Well done. But how long are you going to be there? 4 days. That's 3 days longer than I might try to do it. So, good for you. Okay, now, what we all came here for tonight is the awards ceremony. So, we're going to keep the presentations brief on our side as we talk about the awardees, even though there's a whole lot to say about them, because we want to hear from you. We want to give you the opportunity to make your remarks. Now, Suzanne mentioned we actually have 7 awardees this year for our 6 awards. We have 2 outstanding individuals who will receive the Edwin Land Industry Award this evening. The selection committee was just so impressed with both Julia Buffington and Jennifer Finley that they decided to honor them both. And I think as you hear about both recipients, I'm pretty confident you're going to agree with the decision. So, without further ado, Suzanne, back over to you to introduce the Land Award recipients.
Thank you, Tish. Thank you, Tonya. And most of all, thank you, Charlie. It is my pleasure to present these awards honoring some of the incredible contributions of industry to our mission. And I was on the selection committee, so I am partly responsible for the dual awards. But what warms my heart even more is the recognition of not one, but two remarkable women who have STEM skills and are leaders in our community. Our first land recipient this evening is Julia Buffington, Program Manager at LMI. Julia's exceptional work ethic and data-driven leadership has truly made an impact at DIA. Her ingenuity paved the way for a shift from manual data analytics to automated workflows, ensuring both accuracy and efficiency in producing analytics. Recognizing the critical role of a strong data foundation, Julia championed this initiative within the leadership of her branch. This step laid the groundwork for her team to achieve their advanced analytic objectives by ensuring that the data they depend on is accurate, streamlined, and robust against failure. Julia both fostered collaboration not only with her branch, but with other offices at DIA, such as the Manpower Planning Office. These collaborative efforts were instrumental in sharing best practices and facilitating technical exchanges on common problems. She organized brown bag sessions, something we do a lot at INSA, so kudos to you, on technical topics, which elevated the team's knowledge base and empowered them to apply these skills effectively in their day-to-day work. I'm going to welcome Julia here up on stage to receive her award and turn the mic over to her. Julia?
Right. Well, I just want to say thank you again. I am honored to stand before you tonight as one of the recipients of the prestigious Edwin H. Land Award. I also want to congratulate my fellow award winners. I'm really in awe of everything that you do, and I look forward to the continued impact you're going to make on this community. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to INSA for this esteemed acknowledgement, and to those who nominated me. Thank you, Marion, for their kind words and belief in the work we do. It's a privilege to be recognized by an organization that plays such a crucial role in shaping the landscape of intelligence and national security. This recognition is not only a personal achievement, but more so a testament to the collective efforts of an incredible and productive workforce analytics team on the ground at DIA, a very supportive company leadership back at LMI, and my customers really at DIA. I do this all for you. It takes a village, and this village has worked tirelessly to enhance the capacity of DIA to recruit and retain key personnel for critical operations. I want to take a second to highlight the role that workforce analytics plays in enabling government organizations to inform decision-making. It often plays second fiddle to mission analytics, but it's really foundational to mission success. By leveraging data and advanced analytics, intelligence agencies can strategically deploy personnel, anticipate emerging skill requirements, address potential gaps, and really work more efficiently. Without the right people in the right place at the right time, mission might suffer. I care really deeply about this, so I'm again humbled by the commitment demonstrated by DIA's investment in HR modernization, by INSA's recognition, of course, with this prestigious award, and also just the collaboration we've been able to achieve with our peer agencies. As you just heard, we've worked on automating workflows, we've upskilled our team and our peers, we've developed predictive models about the future workforce, laid technical data foundation so we can build those robust pipelines for more analytics, and provided a lot of just-in-time analyses to our agency leadership, to our peer agency leadership, and to Congress. Our work in support of this mission is really driven by a commitment to excellence, and I'm really fortunate to be surrounded by colleagues whose dedication to, as we said, timely, accurate, consistent, and impactful analytics is truly unmatched. So in closing, I want to just express my appreciation to my peers and my leadership for their trust and support throughout this effort. I'm proud to be part of an organization that is making a meaningful impact on our nation's security. Thank you again for this incredible honor.
Thank you, Julia, and congratulations again. Now it's time to shine a spotlight on our next LAN recipient, Jennifer Finley, Communication and Networking Systems Group Supervisor at Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab. Jennifer is a standout leader, known for her transformative impact in complex communication challenges. She managed a vital DARPA project, steering it through evaluation and seamless integration of innovative communication technology. Jennifer's expertise, shown as she led the evaluation of capabilities, authored multiple after-action reports, and delivered exceptional executive-level briefings. Jennifer then worked closely with DARPA to transition the technologies to other government organizations, sharing her technical expertise and knowledge of the system. And that is not all. Jennifer is managing a project seeking to integrate 1.5 billion of S&T capabilities from external organizations to create a new end-to-end capability for DARPA. In this role, she leads more than a dozen APL staff members and coordinates with a large community of leading technical performers in the areas of cyber, communications, and data analytics. Under her leadership, the team has developed accepted architectures, enhanced programmatic rigor and testing and evaluation, and cross-integrated modeling and simulation teams. Jennifer's efforts created an environment where external organizations are able and encouraged to work together and actively seeks APL support in the development of new capabilities for the nation. Beyond her technical prowess, Jennifer is an exemplary mentor and leader. She forges connections with her team, understands their aspirations, and advocates for opportunities on their behalf. Her accomplishments reflect not just an accomplished engineer, but also an insightful leader and collaborative problem solver. Jennifer, welcome you to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. All right, thank you, Suzanne, for the warm introduction, and thank you, INSA, not only for the honor of this award, but also this wonderful celebration tonight. One of the many exciting things about receiving this award has been celebrating it with the people that made it possible, through their support of me throughout my entire career and even long before that. I'd like to say thank you to my friends and family, specifically giving a shout out to my parents, who spent years doing bedtime math problems with my siblings and I. I can only imagine the struggle that was throughout the years. But that normalization of STEM in our household helped me find a love of math and eventually science at a very young age, even though I probably didn't learn to like reading until like 4 or 5 years ago. But all the same, your support in helping me to advocate for myself made my career not only a viable one when so many girls remove themselves from the STEM pipeline at very young ages, but also one that I'm genuinely excited about, and that I will drive through 45 minutes of DC traffic to go sit in a basement day after day. Encouragement and support are so important to individual growth, and I have been fortunate enough to not only have that from my friends and family, but also a strong professional community, both at APL and other organizations that have really helped me as an individual grow, both in my technical contributions and as a leader. This group has included the mentors who have helped me discover potential career paths and opportunities, and have helped me determine which ones are right for me at different points in my career based on my own interests. The teammates who we spent, hours, days, weeks, months side by side, who I have learned so much from, both from learning from their experience and their diversity of thought. And to the newest generation of engineers and professionals just joining our teams, I am always so amazed at the excitement and grit and technical excellence that these folks bring to our teams every day. They are raising the bar year after year, and I take that as a personal responsibility to raise the bar that I keep for myself and to continue to challenge myself. I strongly believe that it is the responsibility of each and every one of us to not only contribute to this community as an individual, but also to help support and advocate for it at large. It will only be through the strength of our collective and our commitment to build each other up that we'll be able to tackle the challenges of today and tomorrow. My younger self would be absolutely amazed at the problem solving that I get to do nowadays, having come a very, very long way from those bedtime math problems of counting people getting on and off of trains and buses. So with that, I just want to say thank you again to INSA for the honor of this award and to my community that made it possible in the first place. I really look forward to continuing to work together in the future. Thank you.
Wow. Such incredible accomplishments from the two of you. Julia, Jen, congratulations. And we're just getting started here. Next up, Chuck Alsop, former president of INSA, who will present the Homeland Security Award. Chuck.
Okay. Thank you, Tish. Good evening, everybody. Come on, come on. And I want to thank all of you for being here. Of all the various events INSA hosts, I feel exactly as Tish said earlier, this is one that's really fun, inspiring, and particularly meaningful. Not just for the awardees, but for their organizations and for their careers. So I'm really pleased to be here to present this award on behalf of Senator John Warner, a man of extraordinary character, accomplishment, and ability. An esteemed 5-term senator from Virginia, a Navy secretary, an assistant U.S. attorney, a World War II and Korean War vet, a respected statesman, and a true patriot. He was also the 2009 recipient of the William Oliver Baker Award. Senator Warner was a longtime friend and mentor for me. Just a little piece of information about him. He would have been 97 years old this coming Sunday. But sadly, he passed away at the age of 94 3 years ago. I am honored and grateful to be here to represent him tonight. So, before I introduce Amanda, I do want to give a shout out to somebody. I've heard the term here a couple of times of it takes a village. We've all used the term, it's a team sport. And the team sport includes the government agencies, and this is a Homeland Security Award, and we have folks from the FBI, Paul, and we have folks from DHS. Thanks for being here. And representing that side of our mission space. But we also have someone from the Metropolitan Police Department here. So I want to give a quick shout out to our state and local partners in the form of Executive Assistant Chief J.W. Carroll. So it means a lot to Amanda that you're here, but I think it means a lot to us as a community to be able to recognize this partnership that is absolutely essential. So thank you for being here. So with that, it's now my privilege to present the John W. Warner Homeland Security Award to Amanda Nashed. She's a Homeland Security Analyst in the Office of Intelligence, Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia. Amanda is truly the heart of the DC MPD Office of Intelligence Analytical Operations. In less than 4 years, after graduation, she revolutionized operations, establishing a robust system for analysis and assessment where none existed before. What sets Amanda apart is her innovative mindset, introducing new ways of thinking and instilling the disciplined use of analytic techniques to sift through the reams of information received by the Office of Intelligence. Amanda's dedication, integrity, and unwavering 24/7 commitment to the mission make her stand out among her peers. Her passion and energy are contagious. I discovered that talking to her a couple of days ago. I discovered it again tonight, and I think you're about to discover it too, okay? We, as a community and a nation, are quite fortunate that Amanda's parents, who are here tonight, immigrated to the U.S. from Egypt and raised exceptional children to be such great citizens. Amanda's dynamic approach has cultivated strong partnerships across law enforcement and homeland security sectors in the District, Maryland, and Virginia area, significantly enhancing public safety and national security efforts. But her impact goes beyond her professional role. Amanda founded the Marymount University Intelligence Club in the Forensic and Legal Psychology graduate program, serving as its inaugural president. Under her guidance, the organization flourished, attracting new members and fostering interest in the intelligence community. She now serves as mentor to those who came behind her in that program. It's still very much a robust program at Marymount. And I've got to give a shout out to Linda Millis too, her professor at Marymount, who nominated Amanda for this award. So thank you, Linda. And that's also a shout out to all you others of make sure you nominate deserving people for the next year's awards, okay? Okay, so Amanda serves as a vital link between the intelligence and law enforcement companies. To underscore her influence, senior officers from the FBI and others routinely seek her input when presented with new information, asking, "Has Amanda seen this?" It is with immense honor and admiration that I present the John W. Warner Homeland Security Award to Amanda Nashed.
All right, good evening. Thank you all for being here today. I have to, of course, thank INSA for just putting on this award ceremony. Thank you to Professor Millis. I feel like a lot of the people I wanted to thank already got thanked, but I'll have to thank you guys again, and I'll probably thank you once again after the awards ceremony. Because frankly, one thing I noticed when we were the award recipients, we were sitting at the table before we came into here, we were all chit-chatting. Everyone said one thing that was the same, which is we're all surprised we were selected. Because the thing is, when you are so hard at work and you're just focusing on the job, you're not thinking about like, ooh, what awards can I win? You're just, dead set on getting the job done. So I really appreciate that it's one maybe like-minded thought of we just really, really want to give. And it's very inspiring to get to hear from like-minded people in that respect. I do want to reiterate my thanks to my family for being here. One fun fact about me is no job, or I'll say most jobs I have held in my career didn't exist before I got there. A lot of them were just places where I kept inserting myself and decided that I was going to do something about it. And it takes, I think, a very it takes a certain kind of stubbornness and self-assurance to be willing to go into new and unknown situations and decide that you're going to add value. And I cannot take credit for that. I think it was something that I definitely learned from my family. So I have to give them thanks first and foremost. But the second group of people I'll say that I really do have to thank are the leadership of the DC Metropolitan Police Department, where I now work. One thing, as I believe Chuck spoke about earlier, was the fact that when we think of Homeland Security, we do tend to think of federal partners, and it's not to any shame or blame of, state and local, partially, obviously, because federal partners tend to hold more geography, more jurisdiction, they cover the country. But I think it's also because, there's one simple thing that I learned very quickly when I came to MPD, and it's the closer you get to the first response of something, the worse your intelligence is probably going to be because you don't have one thing, time. You don't have that element of time. When you have time, you can review reports, camera footage, witness statements. I mean, you are privy to this luxury that a lot of times our people on the ground don't get at all. What do they get when they're dispatched? They get a couple of words and you don't even know if it's true or not. And basically your assignment is go and fix it, go and make sure it's safe. And so when I was in Marymount and in prior jobs, I was really trained in the IC methodologies, the SATs and the formatted assessments and, reduction in bias and all of that fun stuff we love to talk about. When I came to MPD and I came to, the police world, I realized that those things were not going to copy and paste and work in that environment. Because when you're dealing with, crimes, I mean, you could talk about the murders and the carjackings and the robberies, but not just that. I mean, MPD, personally, I have to say, is the largest uniform force in the city, is responsible for just an unbelievable variety of things that blew me away when I first came on board. Things like dignitary movements and things like, you talk about political activities all over the country and the world and global affairs. Everything has touched the city. Conferences, obviously you talk about our specialized units, street crime, drug crimes, human trafficking, and then obviously the international community with all the embassies and the diplomats that are around. There's just such a hodgepodge of things going on in the city, and MPD is responsible to handle all of it. So when I came on, it was no surprise that, of course, we did not have this robust treasure trove of subject matter experts in each of these fields that was going to give me, all of this available information that I was going to be able to vet and then apply to our operations side. It just didn't exist. And it made sense that it didn't, So law enforcement intelligence, I think, is this kind of up-and-coming oxymoron that is really becoming a big thing across the country, but it's because it doesn't always typically make sense together. But it is something that we are seeking to improve. So I've really been privileged when I came into MPD. It was like a test period. I was detailed to my office. They really told me, to my face, they were like, hey, we just need to make sure this is worth it. And I was like, I get it. We don't have time, you don't have time to have employees that are just going to waste your time. And I actually really, really value, also professors like Professor Mills at Marymount and our current executive assistant chief when I came on, very transparent when I came on if I provided something that wasn't useful. And then he would come back and tell me, we don't need more of this, we need more of this, and that's something that, it goes back to that mentorship component that, you are not guaranteed in many places. So when I came into MPD, I realized we didn't have all those subject matter experts, but we as the US government and the US law enforcement and intelligence and military communities, we did have all of that and more. So I was very privileged to tap into a lot of those circles of people that knew way more than I did about a lot of different areas and were more than happy to say, hey, here's what you need, come over for a briefing, come and I'll tell you about what we're noticing in this part of the world that's now touching DC. So I was very blessed, I think, to get to be part of those circles of people. And then not only that, but MPD also trusted me, I think, to, as an analyst, civilian analyst, they allowed me to sort of get into the operational world and really figure out, what are our intelligence gaps? Because, as we all know well, in the intelligence world, if you don't know what questions are not being answered, you're not really providing value. So to really, get in the weeds of that and to understand, okay, this is what we don't know. When we're out on the field, information like this can change our entire operation. This will dictate where we put our cars, how we position them, how do we make sure vehicle rammings don't happen when there's massive demonstrations, these very tactical and logistical things that made a really big difference to me as I was collecting intelligence and analyzing it. So now I've been really privileged to be in a role where I get to translate, this, just tons and tons of intelligence that we both produce and are given and vet, and then take that to our operations side and really make it make sense. But I do want to kind of come back to the theme of tonight, something that I really do firmly believe. As we have said earlier today, there's a lot of, I think, praise and clout given to the young generation, the new generation, the tech-savvy people that are going to come, and they're the future of security and industry and technology. But I mean, as someone who's maybe, one person in that population of younger people, one thing I have to say is we can't do that. We can't bring value if there are not people already in leadership positions that are willing to be open-minded enough to navigate those new relationships and to say, hey, we're willing to take this risk and I'm going to give my time, despite the fact that I have to literally handle the safety of an entire city and make sure that, people are okay. I'm going to take time out of my day to work with you and to grow this specific operation in whatever that area is. So that's why I just have to underscore my thanks to the people that have brought me here, and again to my leadership here, Metropolitan Police Lieutenant Nicole Copeland, and also my supervisor, who I will cheer for till the day I go. Really, those mentorship, that helps with retention, but it also helps with just longevity in the workforce. And it's the thing that keeps me, running out of family dinners to go to work because something came up, and my family, thankfully, is very understanding of, things that come up. But again, I really am thankful to receive this award, and I'm thankful for the people that are willing to support the new generation of people that are coming in. So thank you all very much again.
So, Chief, I'd say Amanda's worth it. Yeah. There's already a bit of a theme. There's the STEM, there's the data science, there's the analytics, and there's the mentoring, and there's the leadership. And I think you're going to continue to hear that with each of our awardees. And Amanda, one thing you didn't say, first reports are almost always wrong. Doesn't matter if it's tactical or operational or strategic. Often first reports are wrong, and so you do have to continue that gathering. And mentoring works both ways. So I think a couple of us just got some mentoring from you. So thanks for those words. All right, didn't bring my glasses up. Here we are. I just keep the show going. Our next individual to present is retired Rear Admiral Mike Studeman. He will present, as I said earlier, the Admiral William O. Studeman Military Award. And I think when you hear our next recipient's many accomplishments, it's only fitting that the former J2 of Indo-Pacific Command is making this presentation. So, Mike.
Well, it's great to see so many friends and colleagues. I was getting lonely. I retired 5 months ago, and I miss seeing all of you guys working the top issues of the country. It's great to see Charlie again. One of the highest learning years of my life was the year I spent time being his special assistant. I was a White House fellow at the time, and he pulled me in to do some really hard strategic things together. And I was so inspired, actually. I had time on my hands. I started writing a leadership manuscript. I'm going to try to turn it into a book. And I was highlighting 45 characteristics of leadership. And I was picking exemplars. And guess who I picked for one of the chapters, right? And so, Charlie, you're in there. You get to approve kind of what's said about you. But the chapter title was, can you guess? The characteristic. Character. So he is under the title character. And I end that short chapter essentially with the reason why he was so effective is because he was admirable to the core, right? We need more people like him. Character matters. Character should matter, at least in our current state of affairs. So Charlie, great to see you again. My father really was sore he couldn't make this one. He loves seeing the new greats coming to their positions of influence in the community. He's on the West Coast. He's been out there for a couple weeks. He has a special project that you'll probably hear about later. But he was really pining to be back here. And so I express his greetings to all of you. But I also want to say I feel like it was like meant to be that I'm up here. Iris and I worked together. She spent time at Camp Smith when she was with the Special Operations Command Pacific, and then she went down the hill to work at the Pacific Fleet. She was leading in some of the same spaces that 25 years ago I was leading as a junior officer. I was also a senior watch officer down there, working things early in my career, and so there's some parallels. I also feel like I have a qualification my father doesn't have, and this is like a show and tell thing. So I'm doing this because Iris is here with her husband Jeremy, and so I thought I'd share my socks tonight. This is Duke. You recognize Duke? Trey's getting excited. It's not the school Duke. This is the gold medal winner, the surfer there. And my father may have earned 4 stars, but I don't think he has socks, like these to show off in an event like today. He got to be from Hawaii or spend some time there. So Iris, let's get to her. She has a legacy of leadership in her family. Her grandfather was in the Army. He was with the Japanese-American regimental combat teams in World War II, also fought in Korea and Vietnam, right? Had a big impression. Her father was in the Navy and fought in Vietnam as well, and so inspired her to join. And so she's taking her place in her generation. And if you take a look at what she's done early in her career, it's pretty amazing. Let's focus on the things that she's being awarded for. If you take a look at what pressures she was under over the last year in particular, it's pretty amazing. If you've been tracking anything going on in the Indo-Pacific, this incredible amount of activity. When I was a senior watch officer, I had 1/100th of what she has to deal with, leading the Maritime Intelligence Operations Center watch. Many of those people that form that watch are very junior. These are seamen that come out of their basic school and they're cutting their teeth, requiring people like the lieutenant commander to actually lead, inspire, and get them up into a varsity level very, very quickly, which is what she'd been doing here while facing all of these geopolitical crises, many of the gray zone activities that you read about. So she's dealing with North Korea, she's dealing with Russia, China. You think about it, if you're doing operational intelligence in a maritime center, you're dealing with the largest Navy on the planet, you're dealing with the largest Coast Guard on the planet, the largest militia, the largest auxiliary fleet, the largest fishing fleet on the planet. And by the way, they're everywhere out there, right from the Indian Ocean to the Bering Sea, all the way down to Antarctica. And so that's what she has to track with targeting level quality data, right? Because you practice in peacetime what you may need to do in a crisis situation. So anyway, she was in charge of leading the MIAC, inspiring her people, doing amazing things. And in Hawaii, there's actually a word for this. Maybe many of you know the word ohana, which means family. There's another Hawaiian word called laulima. And laulima means to create community and joint action and cooperation. And so she's been essentially the laulima leader in her circle. And I know she's going to do even more great things with the kind of skill set that she's developed. So please, let's welcome her up here and let's congratulate her as the 2024 William O. Studeman Military Award winner. All right, we're to spec now. Ready?
Thank you, Admiral Studeman. You make me feel like I need to get back to work. Thank you, Ms. Wilkerson and the guest speakers. It's truly inspiring to hear how we get to where we are today. Thank you to distinguished guests, fellow honorees. And it is such a privilege to be here tonight with you all. And thank you to the men and women of INSA for maintaining this great organization, for your consideration, and for selecting me for this award. This is truly an impressive crowd. I never thought I would be here in my career. When I heard I was nominated, I was floored. Admiral Bill Studeman is a legend I have looked up to for my entire career. I've seen the impact of his work in national security and stability. Admiral Mike Studeman, as he mentioned, I had a chance to work under you, and I have seen the impact of your work. And I think we're in a better place because of what you've done. It's truly humbling to be here today. I certainly didn't get here on my own. I'd first like to thank Captain Bushman, who nominated me for this award, for his leadership, his mentorship, and mostly his trust. As Admiral Studeman mentioned, Captain Bushman trusted me to lead the MIOC, to lead his analysis and production division, and now to lead his watch. It's a big job. It's a big geography. There's a lot of ships out there. The ocean is big. The accomplishments are not solely my own. It's a large team. All of the things I've done have been with the support of a team and the trust of my leadership. These new analysts that come in, they have opened my eyes to different perspective, different use of technology, different requirements for data, for systems. And they've also pushed me, as some of the speakers mentioned before, to be brilliant at the basics, to make sure that we have the right authorities, we have the right permissions, and we have the right tools going forward to maintain our position in the world. At Pac Fleet, Captain Bushman and Commander Rob Perez, Commander Will Fox, they trusted me to lead junior analysts, to grow them, and to make sure that we are maintaining, as Admiral Studeman mentioned, target quality tracking of our adversaries across the Indo-Pacific region. I could not have done this without the assistance of a strong team of Chief Petty Officers. Chief Petty Officers like ISC Geyser, ISC Perret, CTRC Rivera, and CTT Hagberg, they're the backbone of our naval intelligence enterprise. And for those of you not in the Navy, you may have noticed those IS, CT, CTRC. That just indicates that we're using all aspects of intelligence. You know, we're not just intel analysts looking at ships, we're leveraging cryptologic resources, and we're integrating that team. Also at Pac Fleet, I've had the opportunity to integrate across what we call the PFIF, the Pacific Fleet Intelligence Federation, and revolutionize how we federate our work between the fleets and the agencies to ensure that we're not duplicating work. We are providing a redundant and lean organization, and that we are always able to maintain currency regardless of situation, systems, and degradations. By far the most rewarding part of my job at Pac Fleet has been seeing sailors arrive from A school, learn, digest, and then brief complex subjects, complex intelligence topics to the N2, the Pac Fleet commander, and it's been extremely rewarding to work on them. And then lastly, I'd just like to thank, as the others mentioned, family. We wouldn't be here without family. Specifically for me, my dad, who taught me the benefits of discipline and hard work, and choosing your own adventure in life, making your path your own. My mom and my sister, my biggest supporters, been there through all of the ups and downs, and they always believed in me more than I believed in myself. My kids, Enzo and Ronan, who are home with Grandma today, they put everything in perspective for me. Securing their future makes the work we do in national security all the more urgent and important. And to my husband, Jeremy, who made the trek out here from Hawaii with me, I couldn't do this without you. Thank you for being by my side. The adventure is better because of you. Thank you.
That was truly remarkable. Thank you, Mike, for making the presentation. And Iris, congratulations. Well-deserved, and we know you will continue to do great things. So thanks for keeping track of all those ships out there. It's very important. So next up is our Richard J. Kerr Government Award. Dick could not be here with us this evening, so I have the great privilege to present the award in his honor to Nathaniel Bundy, Lead Threat Analyst, National Space Defense Center. Nate's exceptional technical skills and intelligence acumen have significantly bolstered U.S. national security. As a lead threat analyst, his ability to discern threat activity has played a pivotal role in shaping blue team tactics, techniques, and procedures, or TTP, safeguarding assets valued at over $150 billion. Nate's leadership on the team that fused orbital data with key intelligence analysis resulted in groundbreaking operational intelligence visualizations. His impactful contributions, including 3D reconstruction of adversary TTPs, reached high-level decision makers. Notably, his work was instrumental in the National Space Defense Center's J-22 winning the U.S. Spacecom 2022 Team of the Year award. Beyond his professional accomplishments, Nate has demonstrated remarkable selflessness in mentoring joint enlisted personnel, enabling their rapid mastery of the intricate domain of space. His guidance facilitated the transformation of 2 soldiers into subject matter experts, delivering regular threat updates to a 1-star commander and briefing over 500 intelligence community and DoD personnel at an annual threat conference. Nate's extraordinary leadership, commitment to excellence, and deep technical expertise bring credit upon himself. And it really is my honor. I'm a poor stand-in for Richard Kerr, but it really is my honor, Nate, to present to you the government award.
Good evening. First, I want to start off by thanking Ms. Wilkerson. This is the second time I've heard you speak, and it's an exceptional experience each time I hear you. Personally, for me, the impactful leadership that you exemplify for me and my team is something that I wish to emulate for my team as well. Tish, thank you for your lovely comments. I will admit it sounds a little over-embellished when I hear it. But the one thing I wanted to say before I get started in my other thanks was the effort. I know that mentorship has been mentioned a lot here between each of the recipients, but the effort of mentorship and leadership, 30 kids between second grade and high school, I can barely handle 2. Boys, I love you both. 5 and 3, it's a lot. So I want to commemorate that. It's something that is to be followed. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and fellow award winners, it is truly an honor to be here this evening and to be named this year's Richard J. Kerr recipient. To be named amongst so many other distinguished intelligence experts, it's truly the largest highlight of my career. As humble as I am to be here, I could not have done it without the mentorship, coaching, leadership, and support of so many others. First and foremost, I thank the Lord for directing my path and standing with me always. In Ephesians 2:10, the Bible says, "For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus, so we can do good things He has planned for us long ago." I want to thank my wife, Cammie, and my 2 boys for bearing my long days and my time away. Unfortunately, I couldn't be here tonight, but I want to thank them both. Thank you for loving and supporting me. I thank my mom and dad, who could be here tonight, Corinne and David, for attending, along with Lieutenant Colonel Harder, and who couldn't be here, Lieutenant Colonel Bisco, who submitted this packet for me. Both of which are our team's orchestrators for all things intelligence in the NSDC. I also want to thank the leadership of the National Space Defense Center and S4S, or Space Force Space, that's Lieutenant General Chess, Colonel Lyon, Colonel Amston, Ms. Kimberly Corty, and Ms. Amanda Waremeister, for giving me the flexibility to pioneer operational support and a wide variety of intelligence functions, tools, and process development in order to make our organization even more focused and synchronized across the enterprise. So as you've heard already, I'm mentioning by names. Well, I'm not up here by myself. I'm here with an entire team. The team is the reason that I'm here. And I'm going to continue to name a few names if you'll bear with me. If you had asked me as a young Army infantry officer roughly 8 years ago where he would be right now, never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined he'd be here. But thanks to the love and gentle wisdom of my parents, the faithful support of my wife, and the consistent reminders of servant leadership throughout my career within this nation's great military, I stand here tonight. I will relentlessly pursue the embodiment of self-sacrifice demonstrated by our fallen leaders, if you'll excuse me. Specialist Mark Higashimura, Second Lieutenant Justin Sisson, First Lieutenant Jonan Russell, Sergeant First Class John Fuller, and Staff Sergeant David Sprecher, just to name a few. Your humble yet diligent approach to make everyone around you a better person will keep me motivated to do the same all the days of my life. I especially thank the intelligence professionals, of the 71st ISRS Det 9, that's Captain Grinnell and Tech Sergeant Morrison. Little known names, but they are the pinnacle for the development of all the tactical reports that come from, right now, OneSops, which inform a multitude of national and strategic space partners. Lastly, I thank the women and men of my team who work to make each other exquisite operational space professionals each and every day. And that's Mr. Darren Sneed Jr., Sergeant Hunter Lanham, Mr. Kenneth Hall, Sergeant Emrys Larson, and Miss Laura Curtis. For when one succeeds, we all do. Thank you.
Nate, it really does take a village. We all know that intelligence is a team sport, and you really highlighted that. So thank you for reminding us of that. It's now my pleasure to welcome Dan Drell to the stage to present the Sidney D. Drell Science and Technology Award.
First of all, thank you, Tish. And thanks also to Suzanne, Corey, Peggy, and the rest of the INSA staff for this wonderful evening. My wife, Lois, many years ago used to organize meetings for trade associations. I got to hear a lot about what the unrecognized work is that goes into doing this. And just to ask you to join me in thanking INSA and their staff for what they have done tonight. I also want to thank Tonya Wilkerson for her remarks on mentorship. I think it's a truism that basically all of us are here because of mentors in our pasts, and I certainly know I am. It's my honor tonight to present this award to Jason Payne, who is the research lead at the Directed Energy Bioeffects Air Force Research Labs. But before I get to that, I'm going to make one more unsolicited remark, which is to congratulate all of the honorees. I think this is important. You're all a terrific group, all of whom have made and will continue to make wonderful and significant contributions to the security of our country, so thank you for that. I also note, and this is a resonance from past years, that a majority of tonight's awardees are women, and I applaud INSA for that because in marked contrast to some of our adversaries, I think you can imagine who all of them are, we have the privilege of drawing on all of our talent, not just half of it. And I think that's to our benefit. Jason is a nationally sought-after expert in the field of electromagnetic dosimetry. He'll tell you about that. Jason's also routinely been called on to advise the intelligence community and Defense Department. He was handpicked to advise a congressionally mandated cross-functional team on whole-of-government research aimed at addressing emerging national security concerns. In this role, Jason's has developed a comprehensive evaluation of 50 years of research informing decision makers of critical historical considerations and the scientific community's consensus, as well as the current state of the science. Now, I can tell you that's not easy. Science doesn't stay static. He pioneered multiphysics simulations, assessing bioeffects of novel directed energy sources, estimating effect thresholds, and addressing safety uncertainties for crucial defense needs. On a personal note, I can add that this resonates with me because when I worked at the U.S. Department of Energy for many years, my office actually had its origins in the charge to assess the effects of radiation on human health associated with nuclear materials and explosions. So there's a bit of a similarity there, and I'm glad to see that this kind of work is still going on. Jason's strategic direction in a $3 million cross-organizational effort reduced modeling costs by $1 million. How often do you hear that? While bringing together Air Force and Navy digital body models. Furthermore, he's authored 8 scientific publications addressing radio frequency impacts to human health and performance. I could go on for a long time about how important that is, but I'll leave that to him. His ingenuity and drive are so valued that in 2023, he was selected as the deputy for the Office of the Secretary of Defense's Directed Energy Non-Lethal Weapons Community of Interest, championing this game-changing technology throughout the DoD. He has greatly improved our understanding of directed energy and significantly strengthened our national security, and it is therefore my great honor to present Jason Payne with the 2024 Sidney D. Drell Science and Technology Award. Jason.
Broke the camera. Good evening. Thank you, Dan, for the kind introduction. I'm incredibly honored to have received this award, and I'm particularly honored, Dan, to receive an award that was named after your father. And of course, one of the first things I did when I learned that I had received this prestigious award is I started reading a little bit about your father. And it was then I realized that he and I have at least a few things in common. Your father co-founded the Jason's Advisory Group. And my first name is Jason. I could go on, but I think that's actually the only 2 things we have in common. I understand that people can remember about 3 main points from a talk, so I want to tell you up front the 3 things that I want to talk about. That is, I want to thank some people who have put me in the position to be here today. Then I want to tell you just a little bit about the work that I do and my group does. And then lastly, I want to wrap up with kind of an anecdote that I think summarizes why all of us do the work that we do. So those 3 things. You know, I had a colleague who for a number of years during big events, retirement ceremonies, things like that, about halfway through, if it had not happened already, he would shout from the audience, "Remember to thank your wife." And so I'm not going to make that mistake of forgetting. I'm going to, at the very front, thank my wife for being here. She joined me from Texas this week. We had a chance to visit D.C. a little bit yesterday, and I want to thank you up front. Thank you for being here, and I will have more to say about you towards the end. With that out of the way, the first person I want to thank is the person who nominated me for this award. And her name is Stephanie Miller, and she's also a guest with me tonight. Thank you, Stephanie. And I have had the privilege of working with Stephanie for almost 20 years now, for my entire career. And she's been my supervisor. She's been my supervisor's supervisor. She's been above me in the chain of command. And it's just been really a privilege to work with you. And I wanted to share a few of the things that I learned from Stephanie along the way. The first thing I've learned is how to take time for other people no matter how busy you are. Now, Stephanie has an incredibly busy calendar, busier than just about anyone I know, but she always makes time to talk to people, bring them into her office, mentor them, be with them. And I know and others know that that means she's working weekends and late nights, etc. So thank you for that. Another thing I've learned from Stephanie is how to pick just the right time to interject a nugget of truth when a group discussion is about to go off the rails. That's a very, very useful skill, and she's incredibly gifted at it. Third thing, how to speak authoritatively and confidently, but also not in a way that alienates other people, to leave room for conversation and debate. It's another thing I've learned from Stephanie. Ms. Miller, Stephanie likes to describe herself as someone who's a rule follower, and I too am a rule follower, so we have that in common. And so I've learned from her, though, that there are times to skirt the rules. Skirt the rules when you need to get the job done. There's times when that's appropriate. I've learned from Ms. Miller when not to skirt the rules is when you're downtown San Antonio and you'd like to jaywalk to cross the street. That's not a time to skirt the rules. So thank you, Ms. Miller, for being here. I want to turn my attention now to some other folks who have mentored me along the way and have contributed to my career. I want to mention just a few folks by name, Dr. Thomas and Dr. Rockwell. They're two gentlemen in my organization who are physicists, and as the joke goes, physicists have a working knowledge of the universe and everything in it. And between those two men, I think that might be true. Incredibly gifted scientifically, and I've just learned a ton from them over the years. I'd like to bring up a few folks who have been kind of scientific heroes of mine, so to speak. The first two are posthumously Dr. Merritt and Dr. Adair. The third one is retired, but emeritus. He still comes around our organization. I get to see him time from time, and his name is Dr. Josham, and those three individuals have provided great service to the government because it really benefits all of us when a scientist does good work, they document that work, and you can bet 100% sure that what they wrote in that report is correct and true. And so that's what I've learned from those three individuals. I'd like to mention a few folks from my early career, Dr. Mason, Dr. DeAndrea, Dr. Ziriax, and Mr. Hurt. These are folks who took me under their wing, taught me the ropes, took me out to lunches with a mission to find the best enchiladas in San Antonio. And along the way, pass along the wisdom that they had acquired over their many years in the field. I want to shift a little bit here and talk about my current colleagues and a little bit about the work that we do. I work for the Air Force Research Laboratory, 711th Human Performance Wing, Human Effectiveness Directorate, Bioeffects Division. Yeah, that's a mouthful. I'll tell you about our mission statement, which is to enable the maximum use of the electromagnetic spectrum for national defense. So if you put those pieces of the puzzle together, Bioeffects Division and utilize electromagnetic spectrum for national defense, you get a picture of the work that we do. And so we do biological effects with radio frequency sources, laser sources, directed energy technologies that are proliferating all around the world and seek to understand how they impact biology. Now that can make for some awkward conversations, outside of the workplace when people ask me what I do for a living. And I found kind of a useful way to address that is saying, well, I work for the Air Force, and I do physics simulations, computer modeling, like computational electromagnetics. And typically the response that I get is kind of a glazed over eyes, a bored look, and that's exactly the response that I want, because that means no further questions. Don't have to worry about talking about classified things and pretending I have no idea what they're talking about. So that's the response that I hope for. Occasionally, though, I'll get an inquisitive look and an accusation of, no, you're not telling the truth. You're a spy. And so to my friends who may be seeing this streamed on the internet someday, I promise for the last time, I am not a spy. I'm not a spy. But truth be told, I also do not do computational electromagnetics. And the reason I don't is because I'm past that part of my career. I'm now at the point of my career where I work with a team of incredibly smart people. And those people are the ones who are doing those computer models, doing computational electromagnetics. As my career has progressed, I'm not only working with those computer modelers, I'm working with a wide variety of folks who are scientists, psychologists, engineers, technicians. And it's really an honor to work with just wonderful colleagues. And my job is just to take what I've been hearing from the Air Force and the DoD and translate that into a problem for them to tackle. And so that's what I do. I want to get a little personal just to wrap up. I wanted to thank my parents, and where do you start, right? Thanking your parents for all the things they've done for your life. And so I'll just list a couple things here. Valuing my education, taking me fishing, attending all my baseball games, showing an interest in the things that I care about, and then modeling what it means to be self-sacrificial. My parents really instilled that in me, so I want to thank them for that. My in-laws, and I mean that broadly, all of my in-laws, for 18 years now, making me feel part of the family. Thank you. I want to mention my 3 children. Firstborn daughter, 14 years old. I call her kind of the heart and glue of our family. She's 14. She's at an age where maybe she'd want to be hanging out with her friends all the time. That's normal. But no, she loves time with mom and dad. And I don't take that for granted, and we love being able to enjoy that with her for as long as we can. Middle child, a son, 12 years old. View him as the brains and the creative soul of the family. And then there's the youngest, the 9-year-old, also a boy. He is funny and witty beyond his years and always keeps us laughing, and I feel that he keeps my wife and I young. Okay, I saved the easiest and the hardest for last. I want to thank my wife, who's in the audience crying, so it's hard to look at her. So what can I say about my wife? I wrote this down so I wouldn't stumble and mess up, but you're my favorite person. You're my best friend. You're an awesome, tireless mother. You make all of our lives better. And on top of all that you do for our community and our friends and family, you also have time to invest in your work, and you're an excellent worker. So thank you for all that. And of course, your one criticism has always been with my job that you don't understand what I do for a living, and you wish I could tell you more. But here's the deal. You don't have a security clearance, and you don't have a need to know. But here's what you do need to know. You make me a better person, and you make me a better Air Force employee. And so for that, I thank you, and that's part of the reason I'm up here tonight. And I'll end with an anecdote. I was recently at a meeting with the Office of Undersecretary of Defense Agency and presenting some of our research work, and a gentleman came up to me afterwards and thanked me and us for the work that we presented. And I kind of tritely but heartfeltly responded, "You're welcome, and we're just trying to do good work on behalf of the U.S. government." And he corrected me. No, it's not on behalf of the U.S. government, it's behalf of the American people. And so with that, I want to say thank you for this honor. It truly is a privilege to work at a place where we're supporting national defense on behalf of the American people. So thank you.
Jason, very well said. Certainly a great reminder that we are all public servants. It is servant leadership, and it is really all about the service, our service to our nation. So thank you for that reminder. And where is your wife? I worked on directed energy weapons early in my career. He's doing amazing work. He's doing amazing work, and I'm like Dan, glad that that work is carrying on, and that you're also looking at the effects of. So, thank you. All right, we are now down to our last awardee. And that means I get to welcome, you're already standing, I'm looking, where did she go? That means I get to welcome my good friend and my mentor, the Honorable Joan Dempsey, to present the Joan A. Dempsey Mentorship Award. Joan.
Thank you, Tish. As somebody else said tonight, you learn as much from your mentees as they learn from you, and that is certainly true in my case. What an amazing evening. Everybody's trying to horn in on my award. Everybody has talked about mentorship. I want you to knock it off because you know I can hurt you. This year, in fact, next month, marks the 50th anniversary of my first security clearance. 50 years. People ask me all the time, what was your greatest accomplishment in a 50-year career? And I always say, it was surviving 5 years with Charlie Allen as my deputy. Every day when I went into work, I thought, you're going to be, Charlie said it's true. I thought I was going to be fired, indicted, shot, possibly all three, before noon. He is the most remarkable person I have ever had the privilege of working with, and it's such an honor to be here tonight with Charlie. You know I love you. All right, I am delighted to present the Mentorship Award this evening to Faye Cuevas. Faye is the Deputy Chief of Staff, U.S. Special Operations Command, Africa. Faye has played a pivotal role building the Special Operations Command Africa's first ever Women, Peace, and Security program known as WPS. She spearheaded the incorporation of this program into Special Operations Forces campaigns across Africa and mentored tactical teams and African partners on the value of integrating women into Special Operations Forces, something that I have valued all my career. Her impact has been profound. Faye's leadership led to the launch of WPS programs in 4 coastal West African countries. I was happy just to be able to mentor my staff. And including in that was the historic integration of women into the ranks of a North African Special Operations Force for the first time since the unit was established in 1971. Faye also advocated for and hired a DEI program manager, the first permanent government civilian staff position focused on the DEI portfolio at Special Operations Command Africa. In addition, she chairs the Command DEI Working Group and leads the Community Dialogue Program, a space for conversations from participants across the command on creating greater equity within the workforce. Her visionary leadership, resourcefulness, and mentorship has helped Special Operations Command maneuver in complex operating environments and strengthen nascent partner efforts to recruit and train women in Special Operations Forces. A beacon of excellence, Faye Cuevas embodies the values of mentorship and servant leadership, and I am so proud and so humbled to present the 2024 Joan A. Dempsey Mentorship Award to Faye Cuevas. Faye. Photographers always control this whole thing. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Joan Dempsey. I have to admit I'm a little starstruck up here right now. And then, of course, coming at the tail end of my fellow award recipients are not easy acts to follow. As mentioned earlier by one of my fellow award recipients, we had the opportunity to have a roundtable with Tonya Wilkerson before the award ceremony began tonight. We all got a chance to know each other a little bit better, and I shared that when I was first notified that I was an award recipient, there was a bit of a mix-up at INSA because the first email that I got said, "Congratulations, you are the recipient of the Science and Technology Award." And it turns out I am not the world's foremost expert on electromagnetic dosimetry, but I'm thankful that Jason is. Also, during the roundtable, when I shared that story, Jason said that wouldn't it be funny if we switched speeches? And it would have been funny because I did not prepare any remarks. And Jason didn't follow through on giving me his speech, so I'm here left to freestyle. But I do want to first thank Joan Dempsey and the INSA community. I also want to thank Master Sergeant Deanna Wong. Did you make it in? Yay, there she is. Master Sergeant Deanna Wong nominated me for this award. She is the living embodiment of the fact that mentorship works both ways. She's an incredible colleague, a co-conspirator in some cases, and certainly an inspiration to be up here on the podium, behind the podium tonight, knowing that she nominated me to be here. So thank you very much, Master Sergeant Wong. I also want to acknowledge my friends Lisa and Anne, who accompanied me here tonight. Appreciate the support and the laughs and you holding my bucket of wine. It's a healthy pour at this bar here closest to the doors. There's two things I guess that I want to say, and first, you know, I'm incredibly humbled to receive this award, and inasmuch humbled to receive it for the work that we have done in the realm of women, peace, and security. And for those that aren't as familiar with the Women, Peace, and Security Global Agenda, it's not necessarily new. The first UN Security Council resolution on women, peace, and security was enacted in 2000, the year 2000. But it is relatively new to the United States and to the U.S. Department of Defense. The U.S. enacted its Women, Peace, and Security public law in 2017. The U.S. Department of Defense followed 2 years later with its first strategic framework implementation plan for women, peace, and security. And in 2021, the Department of Defense designated the first budget for women, peace, and security. And I'm here today largely for the work that we were able to do with that first Department of Defense budget, advancing women, peace, and security objectives. So I'm honored, really, I feel privileged that INSA is so forward-thinking to recognize, you know, women, peace, and security really within, alongside directed energy, alongside what my fellow colleagues are doing, but really also as a cornerstone to national security and defense. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that this award carries the name of Joan Dempsey, and certainly women, peace, and security would not be where it is today without Joan Dempsey blazing the trail that she has for many of us to be in this room today, and certainly for me to be here at the podium now. So thank you for that. And I'd also like to just quickly share what I see to be my most recent lesson on mentorship and perhaps my earliest lesson on mentorship. So during the roundtable, Tonya mentioned or she said, I had the opportunity to look through all of your write-ups. You know, you're all incredibly accomplished people, which is definitely the case of my peers here anyway. And she said, thank you for making the investment, or taking your time to make an investment in mentorship. And it just struck me that it really is an investment. It's an investment in people, it's an investment in our tradecraft, and it is an investment in national defense and security. So thank you for contextualizing it like that, because it's really given me something to think about. So that's my most recent example. And then I think what I see to be my first example of mentorship, and it also an opportunity to perhaps provide a hat tip to my special operations brethren. In 2014, Admiral McCraven gave the commencement speech at UT Austin, and he challenged the graduating class at that time, and his point was that if we can't do the small things right, we can't do the big things right. And as a metaphor for that lesson, Admiral McCraven challenged the graduating class to make your bed. First thing every morning, you get up and you make your bed. And that stuck with me when I heard the speech. And of course, he later took that challenge from just the UT Austin graduating class and then to the world when he wrote his book, and really just, you know, stating that what we do to change the world starts here. Now, I have 3 kids, and so when I first heard the speech in 2014, my kids were 3 and 4. So I woke up every day and I made 4 beds. And so if I could just perhaps take an opportunity to pivot or to reframe Admiral McCraven's sage advice into the context of mentorship, I would just offer that, you know, if we want to change the world, then make 4 beds. Because there will come a day when you make 4 beds, and then there'll come a day when you're teaching 3 littles to make 3 little beds, or you're working with your younger peers as they're doing computational modeling, or you're working with your multidisciplinary Navy analysts as they're briefing complex problem sets to leadership. And you'll find when that day comes that you have tripled your sense of accomplishment, and you're doing 75% less work. So if mentorship is an investment, which it is, I just offer my first experience in mentorship as an example of what that return on investment looks like. And once again, thank you to all of you for coming tonight when you could have been lots of other places, and sharing this time with us, for hearing our stories, and just acknowledging the work that so many folks are doing to advance national security and defense in the United States. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Faye. And I can imagine a lot of people are going to be making their beds in the morning. I know a young lady in this room this evening who will be doing that, my daughter. So anyway. I just want to thank our sponsors. Really, an evening like this would not be possible without their support. CACI, Data Machines, Esri, Lockheed Martin, Noble Reach Foundation, Penn State Applied Research Laboratory, and Paradigm. Really appreciate their demonstrated support of the IC. Also want to thank the INSA team. It is a wonderful comparison about events and what goes in behind the scenes. You wouldn't believe it, from the inception to the thank you notes following next week. So I want to thank our INSA interns, Corey Guerrero and Connor Cole, who oversaw the program logistics, Toya Cribbs and Allie Bailey from our events team, as well as our marketing and communications manager, Nicole Lung, who did all the social media and lead up to this evening. And then I'd also like to thank Tonya Tonya and Charlie for joining us this evening. Charlie, thank you for your service. Tonya, thank you for sharing with us this evening. We have a dessert reception waiting for you all. There's a few florals around the room. Take them home to someone if you'd like. They are a gift this evening from our sponsors. So enjoy your evening, be safe, and enjoy some dessert. Thank you.